Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today on Masechtas Yevamot daf Samach Zayin. We are going to begin on Samach Zayin but Aleph by the Mishnah. So we were learning in the beginning of this parak in yesterday's daf that there's a distinction between Nichsei Malug and Nichsei Tzon Barzel, which is also discussed at great length in Masechtas Ksubas. So when it comes to Nichsei Malug, this is something which really belongs to her. It's not stipulated in the Ksuba, and it's not evaluated or assessed. What happens is the husband has rights to the fruits, the peros. However, the Karen, the principal, namely the karka, belongs to her. So therefore, as we said in the Mishnah, when it comes to a gain or a loss, it's on her. So therefore, it makes sense that when it comes to avadim in general, that we say that it's connected more to her. If she would bring nichsei malug, so it would be questionable whether or not they would be able to eat truma, because if it's connected to her versus connected to him. Now, when we talked about nichsei tzon barzel, that is something in which he has rights to, and actually, just like a tzon barzel is like something which is barzel, which is iron, an iron sheep, it doesn't change, which means that as it was assessed, so no matter what, if there's a gain or loss, it's on him. The achrayus is on the husband, which means, therefore, again, because we're talking about a case, let's say, for example, the husband, it was a situation of a Kohen marrying a Gerusha, so he said, if it's Nichsei Malug, so then the Avadim cannot eat Truma, because they're hers. However, if the Avadim that are brought in is Son Barzel, then they could eat because it's connected to him. But in that case, we said because she was a Gerusha, she can't eat because she was a Halal. Now, with that said, let's understand. A Bas Yisrael Shenisis LaKohen. Now, normally, when it comes to a Bas Yisrael who marries a Kohen, the din is, and this actually we saw in the Seif of the Mishnah as well, that it doesn't make any difference if it's Nichsei Malug or Nichsei Tzon Barzel. A Bas Yisrael who marries a Kohen, who enters with a Vadim, it says, Hari Elu Yoicha B'Truma. They're allowed to eat Truma because she is rightfully allowed to be married to this Kohen. She didn't do anything wrong, so therefore, she's allowed to eat Truma, and therefore her Avadim allowed to eat Truma, even though it's connected to Nichsei Malug, and Nichsei Tzon Barzel, because it's connected to him, can eat Truma. So it's all fine. However, now we have to understand this Mishnah. A Bas Yisrael Shenisis LaKohen. So, l'chayra, you would think that at that point, she should be able to eat Truma and her Avadim, but Umeis, in this situation, the Kohen died. Now, because typically the din is, we say, Vizer Ein Law, Ayin Law. So we have to look into whether she has children. Now, v'henicha muberes, let's say she's pregnant, lo yoichel avadeha b'truma. She is not allowed to give the avadim truma, even though she has kids, which really should link this notion, because she has a son, or let's say a daughter, she's a child who's a kohen, mimnei chelka shel uber. The issue is because of the connection of the uber to the nichsei tzon barzel. So what's the problem? Sha'uber poisel ve'enu meichel, de Rabbi Yossi. You have to understand, what does Rabbi Yossi mean? There's two explanations we'll see in the Gemara, that an uber has the chance the possible not to cause to eat. Now, what is this all referring to? We have to see all these Rashis. First of all, v'nicha muberes. Again, her husband Kohen died, and he left her pregnant. Now, banim himenu. They may have had children from before this, but now she's pregnant. Now, v'hi ocheles b'truma. She's able to eat truma because she has other children. So that's not the issue. However, lo yoichel avdei tzayin barzel b'truma. The tzayin barzel avadim, which are linked to him, they're not allowed to eat truma. Why not? Lefi shehin shel yorshim. Because now that he died, the nichsei tzon barzel is connected to her yorshim, which will be her children, and also this uber. V'yeshel uber behen chelek. This fetus has a portion in the nichsei tzon barzel. Ve'enu uber koyach lahachil b'truma. However, the uber doesn't have the koyach to cause others to be able to eat truma, for these avadim to eat truma. So the problem is, we'll understand this in a second, that if he has a chelik, this uber, this little child inside of her, has a chelik of the nichsit son barzel, and his portion, which is a part of it, he would, even though can't eat, obviously, he's a fetus, but the point is, he can't cause avadim to eat. So if that's the case, even though if he has another brother, but part of the nichse, the avdit son barzel, is owned, so to speak, by this uber, who doesn't have the ability as in utero and as a fetus to be able to cause avadim to eat. Now why? Says Rashi, and we're going to see this in the Gemara. Imishim diksaver uber b'mei zara zarhu. That if you have an uber which is in the mother who is a zara, who is a non-Kohen, that child is still a zar. Is only considered to be a Kohen once he's born. But if his mother is not a Kohen, while this child is an uber, this child is still a non-Kohen. So therefore he has no right to eat, and therefore he has no ability to transfer or have for the avadim to eat. Which almost sounds like the same thing. So as we said before, the only ones that are able to have the avadim eat is only if you yourself can eat. And this uber is not allowed to eat, or technically, again, is physically incapable, but also doesn't have the right to eat until he's born. So what we're going to see, it almost sounds like the same thing. We're going to see what the nafkamin is between these two talmim. So why is that? Sha'uber poisel. Then uber has a chance to passel her. In bas kohen shnises l'Yisrael. Let's say the opposite case. She's a daughter of a Kohen, and she's married to a Yisrael, so she can't eat truma. Let's say all of a sudden her husband dies, so she goes back to her father's house. However, so let's say she's pregnant, the inlo ben acher, she has no other kids. At that moment, she's no longer able to go back to her father, who is a Kohen, to eat truma because she's pregnant. So this fetus, has the ability to passel her from eating truma, this bas Kohen. However, enu Michael, and this is what we're talking about, in bas Yisrael Kohen, if let's say, again, the mother's a bas Yisrael, and she was married to a Kohen, umeis, and the Kohen dies, then nichamu beres, and she's pregnant, ein bu'uber koyach lahachila. The uber doesn't have the ability to cause to eat, as well as avadim. In other words, if she is an uber, she has no other children, and all she has is an uber. So as an uber, she's not allowed to eat truma. Again, she has no other children. All she has, she's pregnant. Once he's born, yes, then the baby will eat truma, and so can he. So can she, rather. However, until this time, it doesn't work. Okay. So on this, the Mishnah continues, says, okay, if that's true, dear Rabbi Yosef, after you've given this testimony regarding a daughter of Israel to a Kohen, you should say the same thing. If, in fact, someone who's not born cannot cause others to eat, so what difference does it make if the mother's a bas Kohen, a bas Yisrael, like our Mishnah, even if it's a bas Kohen l'Kohen, umeis, and he dies, then nichamu beres, and she's left pregnant, lo yoichel avadeha b'truma. Of course, she could eat truma because she's a Kohen, a bas Kohen married in Kohen, but the uber would not be able to allow the people to eat truma. Uber. It's the same problem because it's still nichsit sein barzel of an uber, and an uber doesn't have the koyach to be able to cause the avadim to be able to eat truma. So it doesn't make any sense. You, Rabbi Yossi, you're saying that, when it comes to a bas Yisrael, it's problematic. What do you mean? It's the same issue when it comes to a bas kohen l'kohen regarding the avadim. Again, of course, the chiluk is that the woman would be able to eat truma. Okay. Now, iboilhu time with Rabbi Yossi. What is the reason Rabbi Yossi says it? Mishum deksaver uber mezara zarhu. The uber is the child, is the same status as the mother, so therefore it's like a bas Yisrael, just like the bas Yisrael. The uber is the mother in Israel, is before it's born, so maybe it has the status of being Yisrael. And that's the reason why it's a problem. Then the uber can't cause the Eved to eat because he himself can't eat. So my nafkamina, uber b'mei kohenes my. So this is the nafkamina when it comes to an uber in the womb of a kohenes. Says Rashi, bas kohen muberes mikoyen. which is mamish the case of the seifa. The nafkamina between these ta'amim is if it was a bas kohen. Now, iyamrit mishum zaros leka, mishum she'in yolud ika. So if the issue is that it has the din of zarus because it's totally it takes upon itself the status of the mother, so that's only when it comes to a Bas Yisrael, because the mother's a Bas Yisrael. But if the mother's a Bas Kohen, so then it wouldn't be an issue. So then, for that reason, we would say maybe he is able to cause the Avadim to eat. However, it's because She'in Yolud, that issue still applies, even when it comes to a Bas Kohen. So Amar Rabba Hainu Time Rav Yosi, the Ksavar Uber B'Meizar Zarhu. It's because of this reason, that because it's totally on the mother, and therefore, actually, this makes a lot of sense, as we'll understand, how he would understand the Seifa, because the only time this din applies is dafka when it comes to a Bas Yisrael, because as a Bas Yisrael, this Uber will prevent the Avadim who are Tzoyin Barzel to eat Truma. Masha'inkin, if it was a Bas Kohen, then it wouldn't be an issue, because if you hold Uber B'mei Zara Zarhu, then it's fine. This is TA20 and TB22, which basically asks the same question. One question asks also the nafkamina, but let's just read the language of how it says it. Mahim shnei tamim Rav Yosi the Uber enu Michael avodim betruma my nafkamina beinehem. That was TA TB 22. Basrosh nisa sakoinu meis vanicha muberes o yochel avada betruma de Rav Yosi ma tamid Rav Yosi the Uber enu Michael. In this question, TB doesn't ask for the nafkamina. Okay. So he said, no, there is a chiluk between the two, between a Bas Yisrael and Bas Kohen, because in that situation, it's all totally on whether or not we say that an Uber takes the status of its mother. Okay. Weiter. So, Rav Yosef Oimer, Yolid Michael, Shenu Yolid Eno Michael. He says, no, actually it's totally on Yolid Michael, Shenu Yolad Eno Michael, which means that would also be an issue when it comes to the Bas Kohen. So Meisvei Amrul Rav Yosi. Rav Yosi asked the question. Amrul Rav Yosi. They asked the question to Rav Yosi. Miachar Shehei Adta Lanu Al Bas Yisrael Kohen. This is the end of the Mishnah. So Bas Kohen LeKohen Mahu. So what's the din by that? So Amrul Lahem Zu Shemati V'Zu Shemaiti. I heard about the Isser of the Bas Yisrael, but I don't know anything about the Bas Kohen. Now, Iyam Rabbi Shalom Urbe B'mei Zara Zarhu Hainu Dekarmeli Zu Shemati V'Zul Shemati. That's how you can say he makes a distinction between the two. Now, Iyam Yolad Michael Sheni Yolad Enu Michael. If you want to tell me that, so my Zu Shemati V'Zul Lo Shemati Ihi. It's the same case. Both of them is case of an Uber. It doesn't matter if it's Bas Yisrael or Bas Kohen. So kasha. In fact, it would be a question. This is question 7. Iboiluhu Taimed Rav Yosim Mishum de Ksavar Uber B'mei Zarhu Odilmo Yolad Michael Sheni Yolad Enu Michael Ezu Tamihem Solch B'Kasha Umehechon. So he says Tam Shein Yolad Michael Solch B'Kasha. We end up saying as kasha. But the sign of Rav Yosi Gabi Bas Kohen LeKohen Zulo Shemati. But Taimed in Yolad Michael He. It's the same thing. Okay. All right. So it's also pretty clear from the language of the Mishnah that the reason has to be that he splits between a Bas Kohen and a Bas Yisrael. Okay. Kasha. Amr Yehuda Mishmol. Zu de Rav Yosi. This is the words of Rav Yosi. Aval Chachamim Armim Yesh Lo Banim Oichem Mishum Banim. According to the Chachamim, they say that Banim can eat Mishum Banim because of other Banim. Ein Lo Banim. If, let's say, for example, you don't have sons, Rashi says like this: Yesh Lo Banim. In other words, Acherim Levan Mu'berzev. You have other children. Then Oichan Havadim Mishvil Banim Dober Leis Leizachia. We don't care the fact that there's an Ober. If you have other sons, so then the Avadim can eat because of them. Now, Ein Lo Banim Oichan Mishum Achim. You could still eat if there's a relationship with brothers. Ein Lo Achim Oichan Mishum Mishpacha Kula, the whole family. Zu Velois Zu. It says these are the words of Rav Yosi. Vosfirle. However, it clearly doesn't hold like it. I Harmalei Shmuel Rabacha or Rav Chana Bagdata Puk I see Lebe Saura go out and get 10 people. The Emelach Ba'an Payu and stand in front of them. Hamazakil Uberkana. And this is a problem. So an Uber, clearly according to him, has a separate identity. So he inherits part of the Nichsei Tzayin Barzel and will disqualify them, the Avadim, from eating Truma. So how could you tell me, oh, no, Zu, according to him, he holds like that. Zu de Rav Yossi. But according to me, even if there is an Uber, it doesn't matter. It will not disqualify because there's no Zechiyah by an Uber. It's not true. Hamazach Uber Kana. El Zu, what does it mean, Zu? V'svirle. It means this is Rabbi Yossi's opinion, and I actually agree to it because I hold that an Uber does have Zechiyah. So my Kamash, the Pliga Rabban Aleha, the Rabbi Yossi. So what does it come to tell you? That they argue. It's interesting, Bagdata. Some people say it means Bal Agada or it means Shem Makim, Shu Bavel, like Baghdad, Shishmo Baghdad, as it says in Rashi. Okay. Fine. Umi Pligi, does he actually argue? Mesiv Rav Zachai, Zu Edis Hed Rav Yosi, this is the testimony Mipi Shmai Bavtalyon, Vahoidulo, and they agreed. So Rav Ashi, Mikatani v'kiblu, does it mean that they accepted it? V'hoidulo, they admitted Katani. The Mustaber time, as they understood his logic. Okay. Taraban. Haniach banim, let's say again she left the Kohen, says Rashi, Haniach banim hakoyin. The Kohen left sons, V'lo hanichamu beras, and she was not pregnant. Elu v'elu oichlim. So whether it's Avni Malug and even Avni Tzayin Barzel, you can eat. Those Avadim are able to eat. Why? So if it's Malug, Rashi says Oichem B'Shvilah, because of her. She Ochelos B'Shvil B'nah. Since she has children, so she could eat, and therefore the Nichsei Tzon, the Nichsei Malug also could eat. The Avni Tzayin Barzel Ochelos B'Shvil Banim, and the Tzayin Barzel also because of the children. Again, because it's not an issue. There was no pregnancy over here. She didn't leave anyone pregnant, so therefore they were the ones that were Yarshim, so it's not a problem. So however, let's say she was left pregnant, and Rashi's this is it. She has no other kids, so so you can't eat at all. So the reason is because the son is Yarish the Nichsei Tzayin Barzel, and right now it doesn't work, and also because he takes upon himself the status of his mother's Abbas Israel, and also the Nichsi Melugnat because she's not allowed to eat until she has a child from the Kohen, so she has to actually wait until the child's born. Says Rashi, Sha'uber enu Michael loas imo v'loas avadim. Haniach banim. Let's say another case, she actually did. The husband died, the Kohen died, but she had children. And also v'nichamu beras, and she's pregnant. This is our question of our Mishnah. So avni mulog oichlin kederach shiocheles. So just like she's able to eat because she has other children, so therefore the avadim of the nichsim mulug could eat because it's linked to her. Avdi tzoin barzel lo yoichlu. The avadim cannot eat. Memnei chelko shel uber. So again, according to Rav Yossi, this is what he holds, that it doesn't matter even if there are other children in the picture, and that's how Rashi on the very top of the Mishnah, so he says, it doesn't matter, because since there's an Uber, and he has a Zechiyah in the Nichsei Tzayin Barzel, so therefore the Avadim can't eat because the Uber can't eat. Div Rav Yossi, Rav Yishmuel Rav Yossi, Omer Misham Aviv, Habas Macheles Habein Eino Michael. So he says this interesting statement. He says that if you have, Abbas machelas, the daughter can eat. However, if the son, einu Michael. Okay. Let's see. Okay. We'll understand that. So Rav Shimon ben Yoicha Yoimer Zacharim Yoichlu Kulon. If it's a male, all of them can eat. If you have only nekevus, only have girls, then you can't eat. Shemi matzi uber zachar. Because what happens if the baby inside of her is a boy? And therefore he'll end up being Yerush everything. He'll end up inheriting everything, and therefore they won't be able to eat. Okay. Again, all of this is going to be explained. All right. Now, my area, Shemi Yamatzi Uber Zachar. So what are we saying? Oh, the problem is right now this Uber is a Zachar. If maybe this Uber is a Zachar, so therefore he's going to end up being Yarish everything, and therefore that's the reason why you can't eat, the Vadim can't eat. Typically, the Nekeva Nami Pasla. Why don't we say it's the same issue if it's a Nekeva? Because if, let's say, Rashi says, the I Nami having a Nekeva, let's say this Uber is a Nekeva, Pasla, it'll still possible for me to be true. But it came with the Kol, Shekol Eisen, Shulafanenu Nekevas. If they're all girls, Yeshul Uber Chelik Behen V'Afil Hinekeva. So they're still going to, this Uber, Mamanashach, is going to have some Chelik in the Yerusha. Either the whole thing, if it's a boy, or partially, if it's a girl, because everyone else before that, they only had girls before that. So why are we saying, oh, if it's a Zachar, that's when it's a problem? What do you mean? Even if it's in a cable, will passel. Mary says, you're right. Chad b'oid kamer. Chad and the cave nami possible. Oid shemi yamatzu uber zachar ve'en l'banas b'makam haben klum. So he says, you're right. The truth is, it doesn't make any difference. The reality is, not only when it comes to if the uber is a zachar, but again, but they're all the other children before that are all girls. So definitely that's an issue because he'll be Yarish everything. But even if it's in the Nekeva, it'll be a problem because he'll be Yarish something. And therefore, since the Nekeva, or this potential Uber, which is the Nekeva, has some Chalik or a total Chalik, and therefore the Vadim can't eat the Nechzitzah and Barzel at this time. So, Zacharim Yoichlu. So what did the Rashbi say? Rav Shimon Bar Yochai said, Zacharim Yoichlu Kulan. Question is, what do you mean? But Ika Uber. If it's a boy and he'll have a chalik, this l'chayra should not be allowed to eat. The avadim should not be allowed to eat, right? Because again, okay, if it's a girl, you're right, because all the other boys will end up. It'll be megala milsa that the boys will be the ones that are going to be yorish and not this uber. So therefore, okay, it's fine if it turns out to be nekeva. So I understand what says nekevas. L'chayra, so nekevas l'chayra shouldn't be an issue. So again, the Rashmi, we understand the safe one. Nekevas lo yoichlu shemi mate uber zachar. If they're all girls, so then you definitely shouldn't eat because this uber definitely has some chalik. But if, let's say it's a zachar, let's say you only have boys or you have some boys, so therefore you can eat it. The question is, how can we allow the Vadim to eat truma? What if this Uber is also a Zachar? The Uber is also a Zachar. He'll also have a partial chalik in the Nechzitzon Barzel. So Ksavars, the Gemara says like this. This is going to be question 8 in a second. 2 answers to this question. Why would the Rashbi say that if you have boys that they can eat truma, but what if the Uber is also a boy? Gemara says is in chayshish l'miuta. He's not concerned of the minority. Well, there's a less than a 50% chance of having a boy. So look at this Rashi. L'shema yehi zachar. So you're right. There's a 50% chance of a boy or a girl. V'yesh lo chelik behen de basar rubaz lina. But we should maybe go basar roiv. V'ruba yoldais o nekevas o mapilois. So it's interesting. It's true. Let's say it's 50-50 having a boy or a girl, but there's also the chance of a miscarriage or a stillborn. And certainly in those days was more prominent, it was more prevalent. So therefore, this is a miyut. The fact that this child is a zachar is a miyut. And he's not chayish l'miyut, there's a less than a 50% chance. So therefore, according to the odds, we're going to say that this is not going to be a problem. That's the reason why you can eat the nechzitzon bar. The kohen could eat that's the reason the avadim could eat, even though it's tzayin barzel. Because the chances are the uber will not have a chelik. Either because the uber will be dead, as it'll be a mapilois, or it'll be in the cave. V'imois amor, another answer. So the question is, so then this could be a zachar. So why would we allow the vadim and son barzel to eat? The reason is we make a takana. As we're going to see what this is now. What is that? If you have Yusaimim that want to divide up the father's possessions, based on so they divide it all up by the means of the apitropos. And it's true that when they get old, they could protest. Rav Nachman didei omer hagdil ein yachol limchos nimken ma korech beis and yafa. No, you don't have a chance to protest, because if you have a chance to protest, what was the whole point of it to begin with? So what are we saying? So what happened was like this, and this is question 8. So my Talmud Rav Shimon. So again, more the question is by Zacharim. Either it's a miyut that's going to be a zachar, or even if we are chayish l'miyut, but the apitropos will figure this out and say, you know what, we're going to give the uber a great chelik. If it's a boy, we're going to give him a great chelik. We'll do it right now. This is what he'll get. But he will not have any chelik in the nechsei tzon barzel. This way, it'll free up the nechsei tzon barzel to the brothers that already are alive, his older brothers to be, and therefore, since they're alive and they could eat truma, so to the Vadim could eat truma. So Rav Nachman Tanahi. Let's say the statement of Rav Nachman about again this whole notion is a machlokas Tanaim. Says Rashi, Medi Omer Rav Shimon Zacharim Yoichel Mishum Tekanta the Rav Nachman Machlad the Tanakam Savar Avdi Tzayin Barzel Lo Yoichel. I feel, but the Kanta Kaimer V'leisle the Rav Nachman the En Rishoin Lach like Ad Sheg Dilu. You can't do any divisions until the child grows up. Well, the Kol Yami Islu Rav Nachman. Everyone holds that apitropos can do this thing to free up the Nechsei Tzon Barzel to the living brothers. The question is, that maybe it's a boy. Fine. Habas Michael Habein Einu Michael. So we said a daughter eat and a son cannot eat. So Maishna Ben Do Michael. Why, if it's a son, are they avadim now to eat mishum chelka shel uber? Because there's a chelik that belongs to the uber. So bas nami lo tachem ne chelka shel uber. It's still an issue because of Yerusha. So Rabbi hacham nechasim muatim askinan. We're talking about a situation where they do not have a whole lot of money to go around. We're going to ika bein bahadi bas, and we're talking about there's a son with a daughter. So manav shach. If let's say the child, this uber is a boy, then lo adif mahai dekoi, then it will not be greater than the other one, the other son who's already alive. So the boys won't be yorish anything anyway, because when there's nechasim muatin, Rashi says to tikkun rabbanan habanas izayin habanim yishal psachim, that there's a din that when there's not a lot of Yerusha, so the daughters get satiated and get mezainis, and the sons can be knocking on doors. So if it's a boy, so then there's nothing to there. That's not going to matter. The son's not going to get anything anyway. Everything's going to go to the daughter. So therefore, that's the reason why it says that if it's a bas machel, then they could eat, because she will have full rights to it. Ibasi, if this baby, this uber is a bas, amai achla, so why do we say that they could eat? But the kanta the rabbanon, kamadu nafik aver oilam otekinu rabbanon. The rabbanon only made this takana only once the child has left the aver ha'oilam. So b'mai ukimta, but nechasim muatim. So what are we saying? We're talking about a case of nechasim muatim, and that's the reason why the brothers don't get anything anyway. So Ema Seif Shemi Matze Uber Zachar Vein Labanas Mamacham Ben Klum. So it says, oh, what if it's a boy, and then the daughters will get nothing? What do you mean? Adarab and the Chasim Muatim the bonus Ninhu. If in fact it's the Chasim Muatim, the sons don't get anything. So why would you say, oh, if it's a Zachar, then you have then the daughters won't get anything? It's not true. If it's the Chasim Muatim, the daughters get everything. So Seifa Tan Chasim Reuben. The Seifa is obviously talking about a case where they do have. When the Chasim Muatim, the bonus Ninhu. When it comes to Chasim Muatim, it goes to the daughters. For Yom Rav Asi, Yom Rav Yochanan, Yisamim Shekad Machum, the Chasim Muatim, Masha Machum Machur. When it comes to Yisamim, if they sell these items, if they sell them, it's a good mechira. The Elamai, Bas Tekatani, what does it say, Bas? It doesn't mean really daughters. Aim. It refers to the Kohen's wife. Yihachi Hainu Rav Yosi, Kul Rav Shmuel Rav Yosi Katani Law. So it's really the same thing. Look at Rashi. This is why it says that the mother can cause the avadim to eat the avdi malug, the nechse malug. So all it's saying is that when it comes to the mother's is able to cause avadim through nechse malug to eat, but not the nechse tzon barzel. Okay, we'll stop here.